I want to get to Tone. Let's bring in Tone here.
Big Seals, how you doing, sir? Also, for the record, the Michigan offensive coordinator right now, Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore. That's his name.
What do you think, Tone? That'd be somebody up their alley because at the end of the day, it'd be somebody that's inexperienced, but it's experienced with RPO guys because that guy, J.J. McCarthy, in my opinion, is not an NFL guy. But he is. But to me, they did a nice job moving him around last night.
Yeah, and they clearly. I mean, Sharon Moore. His resume is pretty solid. He spent a lot of time in Michigan. He was a Michigan tight ends coach. He also coached offensive line. But
all under Harbaugh.
So yes, so he started out as a Louisville graduate assistant, and then he was coaching tight ends at Louisville from 2012 to 2013. Then went to Central Michigan from 2014 to 2016, coaching tight ends, and then he ended up at Michigan from 2018 up until now, and he coached tight end, O line, and now it's the OC. And also he was the acting head coach when Harbaugh went out for that one game this year. But
love that guy.
Yeah.
The emotional guy on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
And here's the thing that's interesting. You may be able to get the best of both worlds with someone like this. And it's funny we're having this conversation because obviously so much is left to be said and played out, but nonetheless, we have to have foresight because we have no idea what's going on. And the NFL season's over, and all we have is this playoff game coming up, and they haven't really played well enough for us to be really looking forward to it. So we have to kind of look at the outskirts. And when it comes to Sharon Moore, it's interesting because of the fact that his offense is run based. So it'll be I'm curious to see what that will look like.
I don't know if Frank's a perfect fit for him.
Right. And also, like I said, best of both worlds, he's a young guy. He's a young guy who doesn't have the experience, so he's probably more agreeable, but his football mind can directly help your quarterback probably. So
and by the way, if Harbaugh does go to the NFL, he's not taking him with him. Because I'll tell you why. He'll probably go to a place. To me, if I'm Harbaugh, I want to go to a place that's got Justin Herbert. I want to go where there's a quarterback already in the building, okay? Because in the NFL, Tone, in college, you can win without great quarterbacks. Right. In the NFL, you can't.
Yeah.
I mean, look, J.J. McCarthy is not going to go anywhere in the NFL. He's just not.
Yeah, last night that running game won that championship. So
he had 10 completions.
It was pretty awesome to see them just pound the rock and win.
They had 300 yards in rushing. He had two guys go over 130 yards apiece.
Yeah, one guy had it
to throw the ball.
One guy had it in like 6 or 7 carries. It was crazy.
Edwards.
It was crazy, man.
Okay, real quick here. What would be the first thing you did in the offseason to this Eagle team? First thing you address.
I'm addressing the elephant in the room, and I'm getting Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts in the room, and I'm going to find out what's the real problem. Where are we? Can you coach this? Can you coach this guy? Can you maximize this guy's skill set? I'm going to have the uncomfortable conversation early because I don't have time to pussyfoot through the offseason and second guess and question. I need to know how. I need to check the temperature between my head coach and my quarterback and my GM instantly.
I wouldn't have those conversations separately.
You have them separately?
I would have them separately and then bring them together. So then I would do this. I'd want to know their view.
It's actually smarter.
I want their view, his view, and then we hash it out view if we can.
That's smarter.
And then I make my assessment if it can go forward. So you do it in 3 stages. Separately, together, me and Jeffrey talk. That way. See, to me, because you're addressing it really, to me, the first thing I have to do is help Hurts. Because it's my biggest investment.
Yeah, I think
it's my long-term investment. What I can't have this happen is next year in week 8, he's got 11 turnovers.
Correct.
Because then you're going to hear what, Tone? Gave him the money too soon.
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts is priority number one.
You bet. 100%. Even over the puppet coach. You got to fix this kid.
Exactly. Because that's where the money is. And that's where most of
wins.
and that's where most of your ego is tied up in, really, if you want to be honest. Like, your ego is more so tied up in that quarterback investment. You can't afford to botch 2 quarterbacks in the span of 5 years or 10 years apart. You can't afford to do that. Failing Carson Wentz is an indictment on this organization. And the only way they can dispel that negative side is if they somehow, some way, find a way to turn Jalen Hurts into the guy, and he delivers a championship.
Learn from their mistakes.
Yes,
from Hurts or Wentz.
Exactly, but they won't be vindicated unless Hurts becomes something. He has to become something, because if Jalen Hurts doesn't, people will look at them and say, "Okay, you botched Carson Wentz, and now you botched Hurts."
I would say this to you. I watched Lamar Jackson turn his entire narrative around this year. That kid in Philly can too.
I agree. I agree.
The right people around him and the right direction around him. Yeah. I think he can. You said something to me yesterday that I went back and looked, and I knew it, and now I know why the turnovers are so high. They made him make the toughest throws of any guy in the league this year.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, what did you expect? Tom Brady never made tough throws. Think about that, Tone. He was check down Charlie. Tom Brady was never a deep thrower. Why are the Eagles having him try to do something not even Tom Brady did? I mean,
I don't really know what was the ultimate goal with Jalen Hurts.
You're trying to get return on investment on the first round pick in Devontae and the $20 million on AJ. And get this, they are getting the return. They got 1,000 yards, but the offense is stagnant. Think about that. The offense doesn't look as effective as a year ago. And I actually love this guy, Denbrock. He's a hell of a guy, and he's really a great coordinator. He did a great job with Jaden Daniels. They getting the return, but at the expense of the other wide receiving core not getting – and Goddard. Dude, Goddard's numbers too, and Goddard's inability to stay healthy hurts that whole dynamic as well.
Absolutely. You know, there are so many competing variables about these guys, you know, being able to be in sync. But excuse me, it always goes back to, are you doing the best you can to make Jalen Hurts as comfortable as possible in his offense? And are the pieces around him functioning properly? You know, I agree with you, right? I think Jalen Hurts is a guy that can get out of this rut. I don't think this is something that's going to haunt him for the rest of his career. I personally think this is it's growing pains. It's a part of the path. But this organization can't waste time. You have to put the right people around him to challenge him. And also, he's going to challenge himself. You want to make sure you get the ROI, the return on your investment. If you get one Super Bowl out of the Jalen Hurts era, it's a success.
Let me ask you this. Okay. Do you think the failure with Wentz is because Doug had a different approach to trying to keep him going in the right projection, and Howie and them had a different objection, and that stuff collided, and it got in the way of the development of Wentz, and they didn't put quality people because there was too much bickering internally, whereas here, hopefully these guys are smart enough to go, we have to be – see, first and foremost, Tom, before you can fix Hurts, you have to fix yourselves.
Correct.
You have to have a game plan on what the plan is to fix him first before you meet with anybody. What's the direction of what you want to do here? What kind of coordinator do we get in here? Everyone's clamoring for Frank because Frank won a Lombardi trophy. That doesn't necessarily mean he's the right guy for Jalen. So you've got to find the glove that fits, no pun intended here, but you got to find the glove that fits this guy to make this guy be a productive football player that's going to take the best. Shane Steichen, boy, I'll tell you, man, Frank Wright recommended him. It wasn't that they knew anything about. You think they knew anything about Shane? He was on Frank's staff. Frank recommended all that. Frank recommended Gannon. Frank recommended all those guys to them when he was the head coach of the Colts.
Right.
So maybe I'll tell you what, I'd like to hear Frank's opinions on who they think maybe Frank. You know what? I'm going to ask Frank Wright that opinion. What kind of coordinator tonight? I'm going to ask him. What kind of coordinator would best suit him? A guy who deals with the RPO type guy, like a Bama coordinator, or somebody that's in the pros now? Because how many places run the RPO off?
Well, here's the thing, right? Here's what you have to do. What you have to do is you have to analyze what made Shane Steichen great in Philadelphia. That's where you start. Why did Shane Steichen and Hurts work?
Can I tell you what Frank told me about him? Frank told me that he was a master at creating boutique offensive game plans to fit a skill set of a player. Like his ability is not play calling. His ability is to put a game plan together for the quarterback to make situational decisions himself. And that's why when he created that RPO system, you know who to me, last year, the offensive coordinator was Jalen Hurts. This year, the offensive coordinator is Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni. They tell you that. Last year, when you run an RPO, okay, RPO, when you run an RPO, think about it, Tone. This year, they're telling him where to throw the ball. You see it constantly. Last year, he did this. Pull out. Down the line of scrimmage. Do I hand it off? Do I run with it? Do I pass it? He was making split decisions on the move. Shane Steichen's not going, hey, throw it there, throw it here, throw it there. He put more of the game in Hurts' hands.
Okay.
Am I wrong? Didn't you see it that way too?
No, you're not wrong. I mean, when I was watching the games, even with the Shane Steichen era, you saw Jalen Hurts more comfortable. You saw him making split-second decisions, getting the ball out of his hands much quicker, right?
I think that's a great skill set he has. He's a really good decision maker.
Yeah, like that 2022 season, I think he was ranked somewhere in the middle of the league in terms of quickness with the release, getting rid of the ball. I think he was ranked around 15th or 14th, something like that, which is actually good because he's the mobile quarterback's holding to the ball longer. So for him to be ranked in the middle of the league in terms of getting rid of the ball, how quick you get rid of the ball is pretty okay, especially for how he played. This year, I think he's at the bottom. He holds the ball the longest. And that tells me
for routes to develop. Last year, he didn't have to wait for those routes to develop because he would either keep it, throw it, or run with it.
Yeah, and also we got to keep in mind too, we got to pay attention to the other side of the ball. Other teams, they're doing way more and they're more prepared for what Jalen Hurts does well. Let's call it what it is. This isn't just something that's one-sided. Other teams have studied the Philadelphia Eagles. They saw them go through the playoffs. They saw them in the Super Bowl. They're studying all of that, right? Every team in the NFC is trying to figure out how to prevent that from killing them. And so far this season, they made it very difficult for the Philadelphia Eagles. And then eventually the Eagles fell off the cliff. So that's something that the Philadelphia Eagles had to keep in mind. They had to continue to reinvent this offense and evolve it. You can't just think it's going to stay the same. And I'm not saying you, but they can't just think that, because it worked then, it'll work now. Teams are studying you. You got to you got to try to reinvent the wheel every single time.
I tell you what, Dirty D has a great point here. And you pointed this out a bunch of times early in the season. Shane Steichen's routes were open quicker. This year, routes take a lot more time in the open. You know what I'm saying? I mean, Dirty D was right. I mean, those routes last year, they were quicker routes and they were open quicker. Okay? I mean, don't you agree with that? That's a true statement that those wideouts were open.
Right. And if you ask me, I don't think A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith or even Dallas Goedert got less talented than last year.
No.
So I think, I'll put it to you this way. There's been plenty of times I watch games and I'm listening to commentators criticize the Philadelphia Eagles route concepts. Certain guys running certain routes that actually work against the other that actually works against the their teammates' routes. Their route concepts don't complement each other. They're actually colliding a lot more than they actually should. So I think that's another thing too. Just the route combinations on each play doesn't complement each other as well. And you're not really maximizing these guys' skill set. You're not getting them in motion. You're not being creative. One play isn't leading to the next. It's you're just seeing an offense that is in its own way herky jerky, and it doesn't really have an identity. If we're being honest.
How about this, Tone? I would love to have the Eagles fire Nick Sirianni and hire Mike Vrabel on Tuesday. Is that a pipe dream?
Yeah, it is. It is. For one,
I can't disagree with you.
For one, I look at this team and I say, are they really going to fire Nick Sirianni? I gotta as much as forget what I want. Forget what you want. We got to ask, do we really
you want to upgrade though?
Yes, of course. Yeah. But we can't get what we want all the time. So you know this. We can't get what we want all the time. Come on, man. What's life? So I'm looking at this team, the front office. Are they going to jump out the window and get rid of Nick Sirianni? They would have to get embarrassed. They've already been embarrassed so far. But they would have to get like crushed.
Wait a minute. You don't think the last 2 weeks have been embarrassing?
No, they have. They have. But
I think embarrassed you.
So as of right now, I don't think they won the game today. Today. But I haven't locked in anything yet. So but right now I don't feel too confident in the game. Nonetheless, let's just say he wins. They win. They make it to the divisional round. They lose. What do you think happens? I think they find a reason to bring him back. But here's the caveat. We talked about this. They're going to have a conversation. Hey, Nick, this is what we want to have next. We think you should go this route. If he disagrees, he's out.
That's setting the guy up,
isn't it? Come on, man. Who are you talking about, man?
That's not a real conversation, Tone.
Who are you talking about?
That's not a real conversation.
It's not the conversation I would have, but
no, because the conversation I would have is like, hey, man, this is the way we feel about what went on right now. I want to know how you feel about it, and I want to know what you're going to do about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll have a come to Jesus conversation on what we're going to do about it. And then I would say this to the guy: can we work together here on getting to where because remember something here, in meetings like that, something you just said, it makes me want to throw up in my mouth what you just said, because you know why? The Eagles are trying to get to know. When I get into a meeting like that, I'm trying to get to yes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go into a meeting when I know you're trying to get to know. That means you're polluting the environment on me. That means you're not being truthful with me.
Are you surprised?
You know what? I'm answering my own stupid ass questions.
Would it shock you?
No. Damn, dog. I hate how that team thinks.
Me too.
No, I'll take that back. I hate how people in that organization think.
That's why
I don't hate the players.
That's why
people in that
it's
organization.
going to be so crucial.
Would you agree? I don't think the players have any animosity towards Nick Sirianni. I think he's in the boat with them. I think they just know he can't. He's helpless.
Yeah,
I heard do anything about it.
I heard you say that earlier, and I don't know. I still feel like there are some players who look at him like, "Why should I respect you?" You know what I mean?
No.
I do think that.
No. Respect him as a coach, right? I don't think they respect him as a coach. I don't think they ever did.
Okay. Yeah. He said so much goofy stuff.
Oh, kooky.
And it's been so bad. I don't know how they can have a positive view of him, regardless of how you slice it. So, all of this is so funny. Everything we're saying hinges on one fact, one domino. Will Jeffrey Lurie come out of the castle
off his throne
and address his townsfolk? Will he come out and set the record straight and say, listen, I don't like how you've been doing this. I don't like how you've been doing this. This is what I want. And we're going to make some changes.
Going to come talk to the serfs?
That's the goal.
And the peasants?
That's the more so the noble was going to address his counsel.
Oh, because he's not going to address the peasants.
Of course not. Of course
That's not who he is.
We're the peasants.
Yes, we're the peasants.
We're the people who consume the content, the product, right?
Yeah.
We're the townsfolk.
Yeah.
But as far as that council, that cabinet, however you want to slice it, they're going to have a lot of some tough conversations, some tough ones, especially depending on how this thing ends.
I'm going to go by a question Yale just said, and I like it. You think the owner knows that there's problems? Or do you think the owner thinks it's...
That is a good question.
It is. And you know what? Because does he think it's their problem? Or do they think it's a you problem? And what I mean by that is, hey, I gave you an opportunity. You did really well last year. But now get this. Just like love, winning is fleeting. You're only gauged on, you know what? Because he could go like this. Here's an easy out.
That would imply
people get married, they fall in love, but all of a sudden some people fall out of love and they get divorced. Happens all the time in life.
That would imply that they don't believe they did anything wrong in this whole process.
Absolutely. I don't believe they do think that.
And that will be the downfall of this organization, for the foreseeable future. The inability to see where they went wrong. No one's saying you have to bear the brunt of everything, but where did you go wrong in particular? And that's the sad part about this whole situation. Everyone has to wear, this, some part of this failure, some part of this collapse. Everyone has their own portion to carry. If the front office, if ownership can't see where they went wrong, we're doomed. No need to even talk about Nick anymore. No need to even watch the games. We're doomed.
Do you think they... Here's the most preposterous question. It's even dumber than the last one. Would he ever, because he has, would he ever entertain a guy like Harbaugh? Jim?
Nah.
Why? He entertained Chip.
Well,
and this guy's got NFL success.
I don't think that price tag would be
it's $20 million.
You think they paying that? Nick is not even getting paid like the best money. Yeah, I mean, running back money. That's about it.
Running back money they don't even want to pay.
Exactly.
Oh wait, they gave Miles Sanders money, and they gave TJ Edwards money to Nick.
Basically. So yeah, man. I don't see it. I don't know. Yeah.
But if you want to get this, that guy would come in here and he would want his own assistants.
Exactly.
He'd want his own. Remember something.
You're answering your own question, Sills. You're answering your own question. You know what I appreciate about you today? I clearly see you're searching for the answers. You're searching for the answers.
But I know it, and it's in front of me, and I can't do anything about it. And I just can't fathom that you would rather have the control over winning. That really is gnawing at me because why are you in this, dude? Are you in this really to control lives, or are you in this to win and give the city of Philly what they so deserve? Is a team that consistently is not putting silver medals around the Rocky statue. It's putting gold medals around it. They have compromised themselves so much that they have underachieved as an ownership group. Their behavior this year has solidified to me. They have underachieved as an ownership group when they have probably left the 04 Super Bowl on the table. They've probably left the 22 Super Bowl on the table. This place should have 3 rings.
At minimum. But we've had coaching faux pas. We've had people thrown up in huddles. We've had turnovers in crucial situations. It's just been a bad.
Why the rush to pay quarterbacks in your city?
See, I can't say a rush because I feel like a lot of teams.
Did Wentz deserve that contract?
see, here's the thing: when you have a quarterback in the building, right? And I kind of fall in line with Jason Cole in this regard, right? It's not easy to find a guy that's competent at the position.
He's right.
It's not easy. So for organizations to just go soul searching every year or every 2 or 3 years, to have a revolving door of quarterbacks because you're trying to find the perfect one, you're never going to find them. So when you find one that's remotely good, you're going to have to pay him. You got to pay him. You want to stay in the mix, you got to pay him. You put some pieces around him, you get a good, you prepare a defense.
Kyler Murray's a great example of that.
Is he good enough to win you games? Okay, roll with him. See how far he can take you. And if you have a large enough sample size proving that he only can get you to this point, then maybe you consider moving on, right? So when it comes to paying Jalen Hurts, they came across a quarterback that they felt like can get them there and potentially win the game. He proved that he can get you there. Now, can he prove he can win one? That still remains to be seen. I can't get mad at them for paying him, especially since they were behind the 8 ball with not only him being a second-round pick, he didn't start until his second year in the league. So basically the first year was a wash. That gives them 3 years, well, basically 2 years to evaluate if they really want to keep him. Because once you go, no one wants to send a quarterback into the final year of the contract without anything long-term. And most of these players these days will try to hold out. They'll try to muscle you, and maybe they won't even consider you in their negotiations if you allow them to go into that final year of the contract without anything long-term. So you kind of got to pick your poison. If you find a guy that can get you there, that plays well, he's shown he can play at this level, and he's shown he can take you there, you got to pay him. You got to roll with it. It's not easy to find guys in this league. That's why Kirk Cousins has eaten for as long as he has. You know what I mean? Because the Vikings have fed Kirk Cousins very well over the past several years. Why? Because they know when it comes to throwing that ball, he's one of the best. Can he win the big game? They don't really know yet, but he's good enough because he throws for 4,000 plus yards a year, 30 plus touchdowns.
He's the floor of decent to great.
Yeah.
He's there.
Yeah,
the great ones are above him. The below guys are below him. He's the floor in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that. If there was a graph and like you had the quarterbacks you can win with,
yes,
versus the quarterbacks that you can lose with,
yes,
he is the line.
He's the bridge guy in the middle of all of that. You're like this. Shit, man, you can get lucky and win, but I don't know if he can win. But I'll tell you what, he throws for a lot of yards and he wins a ton of games.
Right.
He won in Washington, which is insane.
Guys have had
Minnesota, but
guys have had career years.
But every guy below him sucks.
Right. Guys have had career years with him. So it's like, you have to really pick your poison. And that's why Kirk Cousins, when he gets on the open market, he's going to get paid again because a team is going to want a guy like that. Another guy who, in my opinion, feel how you want to feel about him, Jared Goff. He's above that Kirk Cousins level, though.
You think he's the new Jared? You think he's the new Kirk Cousins?
I think. Because why do you say the new one? Because Kirk got hurt?
He's younger.
Okay, yeah, he is younger.
Now he has gone to a Super Bowl.
That's a good question. I can't say that because he has done things Kurt has not.
Yeah, and he's gotten to a Super Bowl and lost by what was it, 14-3?
Yeah, and I mean he turned around the Detroit Lions.
Dude,
so
how funny is that story? Stafford's going back to Detroit to play a game there.
That game is going to.
Lions got the better team.
That's the game I want to see. I want to watch that game more than anyone.
How about Mike McCarthy coaching against the Packers? That's also interesting.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right. Hey, listen, man. It's a lot of storylines in this playoffs, man. It's a lot of storylines. But
I tell you why
you got to pay? You got to pay these guys. Say it again.
Can I tell you why they may not fire Nick?
Why they may not?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm going to tell you this, man. Think about it. If you fire Nick, the next guy is Howie. Howie has to look at it with
Howie
the owner.
Howie
has to look at it to the owner like this. Okay, well, if I bring someone else in here and that guy bombs, I'm out.
What's so funny?
He may want that guy to work. And because that's his.
So you think that's the leverage Nick Sirianni has?
Is that what Nick's his safety net?
That's the leverage Nick has. The fact that Howie, people don't. Ooh, we're hitting somewhere now. Where are we? 4 o'clock? Well, 5 o'clock. We're good. We're good. Okay, listen to this. You just hit on something that no one's tapped into yet, in my opinion. Nick may have leverage in this situation because Howie has. What GM do you know survives 3 different head coaches? Name one. Name one GM you know in this league that survived 3 different head coaches.
Unless you owned a team, no one.
He survived Andy Reid. He survived Chip Kelly, and he survived Doug Peterson. And that coach won you a Super Bowl, and you couldn't get it together with him. Your ego pushed out a Super Bowl winning head coach, the one that got you the first one. You think you're tapping into somewhere really interesting.
I'm telling you,
there's no way
that's his safety net.
Because unless he has something on Jeffrey Lurie, there's no way Jeffrey should allow a GM in his forget who he is. There's no way you allow a GM to survive 4 or 5 different head coaching changes. At some point, you got to look at him. So maybe because of this dynamic, Howie is forced to really make things work with this guy, or somewhat form some checks and balances for himself. It makes him more agreeable in the whole situation. He has to be the one to be more flexible because of the idea that he could potentially be a survivor of or a widow to 4 coaches. That's not normal. Typically a GM gets 2 head coaches at most. Beyond that, you're out with the 3rd one.
Here, think about this here. So if that guy has another 5 or 4 win team inside that time span, along with all, you've got to look at it like there's an organizational. Jeff Kerr hit on something, dude, that was really something that's an indictment on Roseman. His inability to maintain success is because of his inability to draft and develop. Mm-hmm. I don't know the guy's name. I think it's Hughes in Detroit. And I brought it up earlier. Tone, look at the last 3 drafts that they have had. Do me a favor. Can you please pull up the drafts of the Lions in the last 3 drafts? That's because of the Matthew Stafford deal. Look at who they've added.
Okay, so the general manager for the Detroit Lions is Brad Holmes.
Brad Holmes, that's it.
Brad Holmes. He's the GM and executive vice president.
Okay, do me a favor. Look at the last 3 drafts of the Lions, and I want to show you the difference between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Detroit Lions and how the Lions are building stability, longevity, and building core guys around their franchise since Brad Holmes has become the new GM of the football team. Okay? Look at those players that they've acquired. Maybe even since he's been in the building. Name the players.
All right, let's see here. So he became the GM in, give me 1 second. I think he became the GM in 2021.
Okay.
All right. Brad Holmes, there it is. Okay. So he became their GM in 2021, all right? And since 2021, in his first draft class, he gets Penny Sewell,
Pro Bowler.
Levi Onwuzurike. He's a D lineman. He plays a lot.
Starter.
Let me make sure I got that right. Okay, yeah, he's a rotational DT.
Okay,
he's a rotational DT. He got him in the 2nd round. 3rd round, he drafts Aleem McNeil, D tackle, in 2021. As of right now, McNeil, where is he? He's a starter. He's a starting D tackle. They drafted corner Ifitu Melifonu out of Syracuse. He's not a player. He's not. I don't think he's on the roster right now.
Okay.
They drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th, wide receiver.
Holy cow, got him in the 4th? That guy's a star.
He's a monster. He's a monster. They drafted Derek Barnes, defensive end out of Purdue. As of right now, he has 4 sacks. Let's see here. All right. And in the 7th round, 2021, they drafted a running back, Jamar Jefferson.
Yeah,
I
nobody.
don't know I don't think he's on the
No,
roster.
he's nobody. Go to the next
Right.
draft.
Now, 2022. This is the one right here. Aiden Hutchinson, edge rusher, 21 sacks. Jamison Williams, wide receiver. Josh Paschal, defensive end out of Kentucky. Kirby Joseph out of Illinois. He has 8 interceptions. James Mitchell, tight end. Malcolm Rodriguez, linebacker. He has a sack. James Houston, linebacker, 8 sacks. I like James Houston, by the way. They got him in the 6th round. And Chase Lucas, DB. Now, 2023 draft, Jahmyr Gibbs, running back, star. Jack Campbell, linebacker, 2 sacks.
Starter.
Sam Campbell, star. I'm sorry, Sam Laporta, star. Brian Branch, star. Well, blooming guy. He's young, but he makes a lot of plays. 3 interceptions on the season, a sack. So he's very productive. Hendon Hooker, project at quarterback. DT, Broderick Martin.
Dude, look at the production out of that draft the last 3 years.
Yeah.
How many starters and rotation guys do you think you got there? 10?
I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You got 14. Well, I'm sorry, 15. You got 15 players who are either starters or major contributors.
And in
the past 3 years. In the past 3 years in the draft. That means you average 5 hits a year in the past 3 years.
And in the last 3 years in Philly, how many hits do you have?
No need to talk about that. No need to go there. Let's find out, actually. I'm curious, honestly. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Because let's see here. Eagles draft history.
Holy cow, man. The Lions are killing it.
They are killing it. Like these past 3 years have completely shifted. and it aligns directly with the Matthew Stafford trade.
Totally. So absolutely does.
All right. So here we go. How far do you want to go back to just the past 3 years?
3 years. Go 3 years.
All right, past 3 years.
I'll take Devontae.
All right, so 3 years, 2021, you have a Devontae Smith, star.
Total star.
Landon Dickerson, star.
Star.
Milton Williams, strong rotational DT.
I think he's a star.
Okay. Zach McPherson hasn't really provided anything, in my opinion.
No.
Kenneth Gainwell, a guy. Marlon Tuipulotu, rotational DT. I like Marlon. Teron Jackson, a guy. Jacoby Stevens, not even in the NFL. Patrick Johnson, a guy. So 2021, you got 1, 2,
That's a
3,
good draft.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys who are either starters or making a contribution.
You're on pace with the Lions there. Go ahead. Go to the next year.
2022, Jordan Davis.
What's your take on him?
Jordan Davis?
Yeah.
As of right now, I'm not a fan of his production, but when Baldy called him out, I had to pay attention because I needed to know why. So I watched the plays he was pointing out, and his motor right now just seems to be running on fumes. He needs to get in shape, period. Now, I will say that I'll give him credit for this.
He needs to be a pro.
He came out hot.
Totally hot.
And he was strong.
I thought he changed the narrative.
Yeah, ever since the bye week, he hasn't been the same player. That's just the fact. And
then again, the Eagles were 3-5 since the bye.
Right. So it's almost like, is it him or is it everybody? You know what I mean? Like everybody's been terrible since the bye. So
yeah,
it's kind of hard to just pick. But nonetheless, I do
give him a C.
I'm a Jordan Davis. I like Jordan Davis. I think he's given us a mediocre year and given us a solid year. So I have to give him a C plus.
Here's my problem with Jordan Davis.
Okay.
Is that, dude, this has nothing to do with ability. This is to do with desire and then being in condition.
Yeah.
You understand that, Tone? We're not talking. When he ran down Josh Allen, down the sidelines, is maybe one of the greatest athletic things I've ever seen for a 700-pound DT. I've never seen anything like that. I'll tell you what, if I was Josh Allen and I saw that rhino running towards me
that was basically a rhino coming at you.
It looked like a rhino. And I'm like, sir, I'm sitting there watching that. I'm going, holy shit. That is unbelievable having a guy like that. You don't understand when you're on the field and you see something like that running at you, you're like this. Howie Long used to say this about these big giant guys like Bryant McKinney. He'd go, what the fuck is that?
What is that?
It's just so big.
When you play like, see, when he plays like that, then I'm rolling with him every single time. But I still think Jordan Davis is a player. I still think he's a player. Maybe what I had Jeff him at 13, maybe not.
I think he's 22.
But
I think he's a first rounder.
Yeah, I think he's a player. And 2 years in, and he's a DT as well. All of them don't hit the ground running right away.
No, hey, Tone. I think he's a first round draft choice. I just don't think he's 13th.
That's fair enough. I think that's fair. So, all right. Anyway, 2021, Devontae Smith, Landon Dickerson, Milton Williams, Kenny Gainwell, Martin Tuipulotu. You got about 5 guys who actually contribute.
That's a great draft.
So it's 2021. 2022, you have Jordan Davis, Cam Jurgens, Nakobe Dean, Kyron Johnson, and Grant Calcaterra. You're getting contributions from 2 of those guys directly.
Are they stars?
One guy can't stay healthy. One guy is a special teamer, and the last guy can't stay healthy either, which is the tight end, Grant Calcaterra. Jordan Davis is a starter. Cam Jurgens is a starter. So you got 2 starters. Also, keep in mind, in the 2022 draft, they only had 5 picks. So they drafted. So 2 out of the 5 guys are starters.
You think Cam Jurgens has replaced Isaac Seumalo?
He hasn't had a consistent bill of health, but I like what Cam brings. He's not a natural guard though. He's going to shift to center. That's his natural spot. But I've been more pleased by Cam than not. So I'll roll with that for now. Young guy, first year starting. I'll roll with it.
He don't look special to me, but okay.
Well, look, it's the offensive line, right?
I just don't see like I saw Isaac Seumalo putting Raven guys on their back.
All right. Let me kind of because I didn't want to do this. Isaac Seumalo was okay. He was a good. He was okay.
He's ranked the 9th best guard in pro football by Pro Football Focus.
That's this year. What I'm saying is, Isaac Seumalo, he just got good.
Remember, 30 years old though, Tone.
Say it again.
Remember, 30 years old, 28. You start getting better in the old line in your later 20s.
That's fair enough.
Your 30s.
But he outpriced himself in Philadelphia. Over that, a lot of people outpriced themselves.
He did.
So I gotta be willing.
But
to
he's
move
been
on
an impact in Pittsburgh.
No, yeah, I'm not doubting that. But I'll put it to you this way: every time Isaac Seumalo's been on the line, he's been the lesser of the 5 guys. That's just the reality. And I I can't keep everybody together. I got Lane, I got Milano.
No, I got it.
But again, I don't want to shit on Seumalo.
No. But I would say
he was a guy. He was a good player.
Because what you're doing now is you're taking me back and schooling me on my own schooling, and that is, hey, Sills, financially, what's a better guy, Cam Jurgens or Isaac Seumalo? It's Cam Jurgens, because the money I got to pay. What is it? I got to pay $45 million with 3 guys in that line. And I still got Dickerson to have to deal with soon coming up in the offseason here if I'm going to pay him or not before the the clock hits midnight on that. I gotta pay his ass too. So like you said, you can't keep them all here.
You can't keep them all. So I look at Cam as a guy. And look, also, and here's another thing too. The fact that the Eagles perennially have 3 to damn near the whole offensive line going to the Pro Bowl, that's not normal either.
No.
So if you got 3 or 2 Pro Bowls on the O line and the rest of them are just solid, that's a good offensive line.
It's the best O line in football.
Yeah. So in the 2022 draft, out of 5 players chosen, they got 2 starters out of it.
Oh, that's a good ratio.
That's a 40% hit rate. I'll roll with that.
That's good. That's good.
In the 2023 draft class, they had 7 picks. They had 7 picks in the 2023 draft, and they drafted Jalen Carter, hit obviously.
Love him.
Nolan Smith. I have no idea what he is. No idea.
And by the way, we can't give any thumbs up or thumbs down on this because it's 1 year and it's not fair, and I won't either.
Right.
But I'll just go like this: did they contribute?
Yeah.
Like that guy Laporta contributed this year to the Lions.
Yeah, his contribution was so massive. He changed his own narrative.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he forced you to say, "Oh, he's a guy."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's somebody I can play with.
And you got to be fair to the Eagles here too. On one point, there's more holes to fill in Detroit the last couple of years than there have been in Philadelphia to have to replace, because especially on the offense. Remember something, Tone. You're not going to win a lot of jobs in the O-line if you're an O-lineman in Philadelphia when you've got 3 Pro Bowlers in the line and a potential 4th Pro Bowl. You really theoretically have 4 Pro Bowlers. And Malata, Malata's fallen off too this year a little bit here at the back end.
It's funny you say that. I actually thought Malata was their most consistent offensive lineman.
I think he's kind of fallen a little bit in run game.
I
don't think he's hard. I think he's been a really good. You know what? Has he been better than Lane?
I think he's been more consistent.
Yeah, I think he's been better than Lane this year.
I think that's about it. Let me look at this other draft class. Give me 1 second. So, all right, here we go. In 2023, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Tyler Steen at offensive line. I
don't know anything about him yet.
Yeah, he played one. He started one game against the Cowboys. He was okay. Wasn't spectacular, but he's a project. He's a.
And remember, 28 and up. You got to remember when you're developing these guys for O linemen, they're developed later than D linemen.
Facts. So give me 1 second. So we have there we go. Tyler Steen at offensive lineman. You got Sidney Brown at safety. Don't really know what he is yet. I kind of feel bad. He tore his ACL.
Here's my assessment of him. He's got a great intensity about him. He reminds me of Bob Sanders a lot, the old DB for the Colts. He's bigger than Sanders.
He's got to slow down, though.
But here's his problem: his technique on getting and tackling. I'm not sure he's a great tackler. He's more of a gorer. And what I mean by that, he's like a guy who throws his body like a spear. And I did this. You throw your body and you gore a guy with your head, but you've got to wrap. Okay? And he's a big hitter, but he's got to finish getting people on the ground. He over pursues too much because he's thinking faster than the game. He needs to just, hey kid, you know what, Tone? Seriously, if he smoked 2 joints before a game, he'd probably be all pro.
Yo, that's the take of the day. That's the take of the day.
If he smoked 2 joints,
he'll be good to go. He'll be good. He'll be going at the perfect speed.
Hey, he'd be Ronnie Lott if he smoked 2 joints.
Yo, that's funny. Oh my God, man. So after Sidney Brown, they drafted Keely Ringo.
What do you make of him?
He had a good game, had a bad game, a good game. Like
can I tell you?
I don't know.
Look like a very good athlete.
He's not. So you know what it is? He has the speed, has the athleticism. He doesn't have the flexibility. He looks stiff.
He just doesn't look like he's an athlete.
It's the flexibility. That's what it is. He just looks like he's.
Watch this. You're saying this. He doesn't have flexibility skills and he plays DB. I don't know about you, man, but that's not a good combo.
No, exactly. That was the knock on him coming out.
How tall is he?
Oh, he's like 6. He's rangy. He's like 6'1", 6'2", something like that.
How much does he weigh? Because I might think of playing him at linebacker.
He's 6'2", 207. He's too small.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'd like to put 35 pounds on his ass and put him at Sam or put him at Will and see if he could play that position. Because to me, he's not going to play back there because I don't think he's got good feet. And like you said, I don't think he's got good hips.
Yeah, that's what.
He's going to have to. He's going to have to do a lot of work for him to be. That was the big criticism of him coming out of college, is that he was tight in the hips and he didn't rotate well.
Yeah. And after Kelly Ringo, they got Tanner McKee, the quarterback out of Stanford, and Moro Ujomo, a D tackle out of Texas, another project. So
I see that kid playing, man. I'm glad that he, that's one thing that I really enjoy about the Eagles that they do. I mean, those later round draft choice kids, because Howie falls in love with his own ego, he plays whether you're a 7th rounder or a 1st rounder. He plays you.
If you're on the D line, he'll play you, especially at DT. He'll play you. But certain positions, I feel
or
like
does he play you because they're cheap?
No, he plays you because somebody got hurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or both?
Or both. I'm definitely willing to say both. Also, by the way, as far, according to PFF, and I understand PFF is not the end all be all, but I think they do a pretty good job of grading offensive linemen, right? And Lane Johnson's PFF grade on the season was 80.9. So he had an 80 percentile grade according to PFF, almost 81. Mailata had an 84.1.
Oh, I'm wrong. He had a better year. Yeah.
Yeah. So Mailata, and I compared him against everybody else. Mailata has been the highest graded or the most consistent offensive lineman for the Eagles this year.
What's his grade next to Tyron Smith with the Cowboys?
That's a good question. Tyron Smith.
Because that left tackle position, and what's Mailata, 26?
Mailata is 26 years old, correct.
Okay, he's 26. Man, that's young, having never played, and he had a higher grade this year. You think Lane Johnson's running out of gas?
I think this was Mailata's best year since the 2021 year. His 2022 year, believe it or not, I felt like it wasn't his best year, in my opinion. I feel like 2021 to 2022 took a little down slope. He got hurt though in 2022, hurt that shoulder, so he had to get back.
He did.
And 2023 was the get back year. I feel like he was really strong this year. As far as Lane Johnson, it's so funny when you're talking about guys of his caliber, the slightest step back in his game, you notice, because he's so great. And even when he takes that step back, he's better than most guys in the league still. But we notice it because he's our guy. So I noticed a Lane Johnson this year that wasn't as sharp as he was last year. But I saw him getting beat by the bull rush a lot more this year, in my opinion. Maybe other people have their own assessment. But every time I see Lane Johnson, not every time, but when I see Lane Johnson go up against a lot of different guys, I saw him getting pushed back a lot in the bull rush. Not the finesse moves. He still has the instincts, but the bull rush. I think the strength is starting to.
You know what happens to O linemen? I'm going to tell you what happens. Their hamstrings.
I think it's the leverage. He can't.
They can't bend. You know what?
Yeah.
It's like really funny because they back up so much. The number one thing that goes on an O lineman, especially tackles, is their hamstrings, and they can't bend over, and they can't have the flexibility to get down in their stance, and they play high. And that's why it's funny you should say that. So get this, Tone. You're not really a bull rusher yourself, but it's funny you would notice that. That's astute. When anytime you see an offensive lineman getting bull rushed and he's an older guy, it's because the flexibility is playing too high and he's not able to get down in his stance.
Like it's always
like he used to get down in his stance, and he's getting pushed back into the pile.
It looks like he's doing a lot of this a lot. Like he's trying, but he's still a strong guy. He's still talented. He understands the trick. He understands.
75% of that guy is better than 95% of the league.
Exactly. So a guy of that caliber, we're going to notice the step back. We're going to notice it. He's our guy. We're going to see it. We're going to compare him to the Pro Bowl, All Pro years. He still was a Pro Bowler this year, and he didn't have, in my opinion, to his standard, one of the better years. Kelsey, I think, also took a step back. But as far as Tyron Smith, though. Tyron Smith, wow. Tyron Smith had a PFF grade of 83.8.
So Mailata had a higher grade.
And Mailata had a higher grade.
And didn't make the Pro Bowl.
And played. He had a higher grade and played about 180 more snaps than him.
Look at that.
On the season.
Because Tyron Smith plays with the Cowboys. He made the Pro Bowl.
He played over 200 more snaps than him.
So he played over 200 more snaps, had a better season. And Tyron Smith's a starting guard for the Pro Bowl for the NFC.
But left tackle.
Left tackle. He's a starting tackle over Mulata. Mulata had a better year. That shows you how that Pro Bowl thing, when you're looking at players that are putting it up every week. And you know what, too? I guarantee you, Tone, losing 5 or 6 didn't help him in the perception that they were not running the ball like they were in the past, and that Jalen was getting pressure on him. Those running backs, also the pass protection probably hurt the entire group. And I'm wondering, do you grade pass protection with the backs and the line, because that could bring your grade down?
Yeah, see, PFF, you got to pay for the extra thing. Otherwise, I will be able to see the pass blocking grade versus the run blocking grade, but I'm not paying for that right now. So, nonetheless, though,
pay for anything Chris Collinsworth has. He's a Gator. Oh wait, Howie is too. I forgot.
that's why you and Howie don't see eye to eye, man. It's that Gator hurricane for you.
Could be.
Hey. Let me ask you this: if Howie was a hurricane and everything still was the same, would you be more patient with him?
You see, you got to remember something about Gators. The Gators are the most arrogant. The Gators are the most arrogant people on the planet. They're the most condescending people. They're the most ignorant when it comes to thinking that they know better than everyone else.
Oh, look at you.
They have an attitude about them that is so pathetic.
Eagles fans, y'all hear him? He is going off right now.
It's great going into Gainesville, beating the shit out of your team and stealing your girlfriends. It's one of the greatest things on the planet to do is eat gator meat before you go up there, take their girlfriends and then their pride and beat the shit out of them at the swamp or the little pond they have. Other than that, they're probably fine folk.
Other than that, they're probably fine folk. Okay. All right. But, oh, yeah.
So wait. So are you saying, do I have a problem with the let me just, I'll say this in closing. There's a highway that's Highway 75 that goes through Shittsville, known as Gainesville. And to me, there's a thing called Gatorland. And the only thing that I know in Shittsville is Gatorland. Somebody told me they play football up there. I refuse to go on I-75. I'm not kidding. I would rather go I-95 and go around and circle to 45 and come on down than to go. I hate those people.
Listen, if
I hate anybody associated with Florida.
If he was a hurricane, would you give him more grace? If every decision he's ever made is still the same, if he was a hurricane, would you be honest with yourself? If he was a hurricane, would you give him a little bit of a pass?
I like Jeff Stoutland. Jeff Stoutland was a hurricane.
I bet.
No, he was. So was Sean Desai, actually.
No, I know. That's probably why you took that Sean Desai move hard, isn't it?
Yes, because a lot of people down in Miami like him. You know what? You know the hard thing about Sean Desai is, by the way, Pete Carroll, if he ever got fired, Pete Carroll would hire him in 10 seconds. Pete Carroll has great things to say about him. You know where I think he would go? Miami.
Dolphins?
Yeah, with Fangio. Work as an assistant down there with him.
Go down there, go to Miami, regroup, and then take another crack at the DC market the following season. That's interesting.
Yeah, because you know what they would do? He'd go down there, he'd work for Fangio, and if Raheem Morris gets a job, a head coaching job, which I hope he does, that DC job in Los Angeles, Aaron Donald will probably be out of there by then.
Mm-hmm.
I say he's got one more. I say next year's Aaron Donald. He could retire this year. Okay, but I think Aaron Donald's got probably one more year, and you're going to have a guy go in there and revamp. However, the difference with Les Snead and Kevin Demoff, we've seen it in the past, man. They're going to spend the money, and they're going to do whatever it takes. They had a credit card 2 years ago, Tone. I don't know how they were paying for guys.
Yeah,
and they're paying for it now.
If they even smell like they're close to a Super Bowl, they're going to break the bank. They're going to crack the piggy bank and just pull the ripcord, and all the money's going to fall for the ceiling.
Would I give Howie more credit? Would I give him more love if he wasn't a Gator? I'm not going to answer that.
I know because you know the damn answer. That's what it is.
Well, you know what? I know every goddamn answer. I go on the air every day, and I can't get to the damn conclusion because you're sitting here. You see what he did today? He called me out going like this, man, I heard you for 2 hours talking, and you're talking about something that you know the answer to. And I'm like, you know what? Shut up. And I'm, you know what?
You say it to me all the time.
I can't
say it to me all the time.
from the fact of arrogance like that.
Listen, man, he's a Gator.
Let me go. Hey, Tom, thanks, man. I appreciate it, brother.
Of course.
He's a Gator. Hit the like button. Keep it here, National Football Show.
Football and Hooters, the perfect pair.